Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unravel the complex, almost invisible strings that tie your everyday life directly to the absolute highest levels of global geopolitics. Seriously, if you've ever wondered why international events thousands of miles away seem to instantly and mysteriously impact your bank accounts, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to break down the actual mechanics of global hegemony. We'll look at exactly how it was built and why the very foundation it rests on might just be starting to fracture.
Okay, let's dive right into this bizarre but totally vital question. In geopolitical circles, you might occasionally hear a pretty fascinating set of metaphors used to describe international trade. When you hear about, say, dinosaur juice being pumped out of distant jungles, what they're actually talking about is global crude oil. And the green leaves used to pay for it? Those are United States dollars. So the real question we need to answer is, why does foreign oil completely dictate the purchasing power of your wallet?
To really understand the answer, we have to look at the micro-level pain before zooming out to the big picture. Picture the everyday citizen. I mean, maybe this is you, right? You're scrolling on your phone, you see the price of gas is jumping up yet again, and you walk over to an empty fridge, really feeling the squeeze of inflation. You feel stressed and understandably kind of disconnected from the whole thing. Why on earth should the price of oil from the other side of the planet decide the value of the money in your pocket today? Well, it's because you, and literally the entire global economy, are caught inside a meticulously designed 50-year-old trap.
Part 1. The Everyday Illusion.
Part 2. Birth of the Petrodollar. Let's rewind the clock a bit. Because this specific sequence of events, it changed the world forever. Back in 1973, Middle Eastern oil producers completely cut off supply to the United States in protest over regional conflicts. And the effect was immediate and honestly devastating. Within just a few months, the price per barrel of oil jumped from $3 to $10. Gas stations literally ran dry. The U.S. leadership under President Nixon went into a complete and total panic. They realized the entire American economy was incredibly vulnerable, and they decided right then and there this could absolutely never be allowed to happen again. That realization led directly to 1975, when a quiet, highly secretive agreement was formed with Saudi Arabia.
So the crucial point we need to understand is this specific setup. The 1975 deal was shockingly simple but absolutely brilliant. Saudi Arabia agreed that all of its oil would be sold exclusively in US dollars, period. No other currency would be accepted. In exchange for that, the United States guaranteed absolute, unquestioned military protection for the Gulf states. This single agreement formed the bedrock of global financial hegemony for the last 5 decades. It is the foundation of everything.
And the sheer brilliance of this is found in the cyclical loop it created. Think about it. First, every modern nation needs oil to survive. You just can't run a country without it. Second, because of that 1975 agreement, if a country like South Korea or India wants oil, they can't just hand over their own currency. They have to acquire US dollars first. Third, this creates a constant, artificial, and practically infinite global demand for the US dollar. And finally, step 4, which is the real kicker, because the whole world constantly needs dollars, the United States gained unprecedented superpower status. It meant the US could print massive amounts of money and take on incredible debt without the dollar losing its value. Why? Because foreign nations would always be there to absorb those dollars just so they could buy their oil. It's like a financial cheat code. But no system lasts forever.
Part 3. Cracks in the Alliance.
First off, we have to acknowledge the sheer scale of leverage at play here. The Gulf region controls nearly 30% of global oil production. Now, while the rest of the world combined produces the other 70%, having nearly a third of the world's absolute most critical resource concentrated in one specific region, that gives those nations immense, world-shaping economic power.
And because of the Petrodollar agreement, the resulting wealth transfer was just historic. Back in the 1970s, many of the Gulf states were largely nomadic desert territories. But look at them today. They boast the world's busiest airports, futuristic glass skyscrapers that literally reach into the clouds, and massive sports leagues that are paying the highest athletic salaries on the planet. This rapid, unbelievable modernization was built entirely on oil revenue and the ironclad stability guaranteed by the U.S. military.
But then, that security guarantee was tested, and it failed. Rising regional conflict involving Iran led to some severe warnings. Warnings that were ultimately ignored by U.S. leadership at the time. Eventually, tensions boiled over. Oil refineries were attacked, and the incredibly vital Strait of Hormuz was actually blocked. I mean, imagine 150 massive commercial ships trapped, totally unable to move, resulting in a staggering $1 billion daily loss. The situation got so incredibly dire that Qatar actually ran out of interceptor missiles. And the major turning point? The United States leadership refused to provide the promised military assistance. The core promise of the petrodollar, security in exchange for oil pricing, was broken.
Let's move forward and see how this builds directly into the geopolitical landscape we're seeing today. Enter the Chinese yuan. Acting as a very quiet, very patient opportunist, China had been watching this exact system for a long time. For 2 decades, China has been purchasing massive amounts of oil, just patiently waiting for a crack in that US-Saudi alliance.
And when that U.S. military guarantee faltered, China stepped right in. Saudi Arabia signed a currency swap agreement allowing their oil trades to settle directly in Chinese yuan, completely bypassing the U.S. dollar. It created a clean short circuit right in the middle of the system. That infinite mandatory demand for the U.S. dollar we talked about earlier, it had just been successfully bypassed.
Part 4. The trillion-dollar trap. Now, what's really fascinating about this shift is the concept of death by erosion. See, the petrodollar system isn't going to die violently overnight in one massive cinematic crash. It's just crumbling slowly. For 50 years, Gulf nations took their massive oil profits and constantly recycled them by buying U.S. government bonds. But as they start trading in other currencies like the yuan, they naturally stop buying those U.S. bonds. The foundation of American financial dominance is slowly washing away, literally millimeter by millimeter.
And here is exactly why that erosion is so dangerous. $39 trillion. That is the crushing weight of the current U.S. national debt. For decades, the U.S. has built up this absolute mountain of debt under the core assumption that the petrodollar system would just last forever, that there would always be foreign buyers eager to soak up U.S. debt because they desperately needed dollars. Without that mandatory demand, this number becomes a ticking time bomb.
To see just how serious this is, consider the reality of U.S. annual spending today. As those foreign bond buyers disappear, interest rates inevitably spike. Right now, merely paying the interest on that $39 trillion debt costs the U.S. government over $1 trillion every single year. Just let that sink in for a second. The interest payments alone now dwarf both the entire U.S. military budget and the healthcare budget. The cost of just maintaining the debt has become completely unsustainable.
And because of this completely unsustainable math, the U.S. government is now staring down 3 brutal, inescapable options. They can radically cut spending, which strips away public services. They can raise taxes, which deeply hurts the everyday citizen. Or they can try to just take on even more massive debt, which honestly just accelerates the erosion and pushes those interest rates even higher. There's absolutely no easy way out of this.
Which brings us full circle, zooming right back into the micro level. We are looking at the everyday citizen trapped inside a metaphorical glass box. The walls of this box are closing in, and they represent the 4 massive geopolitical forces we've been talking about. A paralyzed Congress facing impossible financial choices, a shifting global oil market that is no longer strictly tied to the dollar, fracturing relations with once guaranteed allies, and the self-inflicted wounds of taking on $39 trillion in debt.
We started all of this by looking at a stressed citizen standing in front of an empty fridge annoyed by the price of gas. Now you can see exactly why the price of that dinosaur juice dictates the value of the green leaves in their wallet. A 50-year macroeconomic shift is landing squarely on the shoulders of the everyday person. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder. As this global financial hegemony continues its slow erosion, what happens to the everyday citizen when those 4 walls finally close in? Thank you for checking out this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.